not going to do it.
Hello, America. It's so good to be with you all today. The American Awakening Squad coming to you from around the country.
Calvin didn't make it.
Signs of life. What is that, Jeff?
I said Calvin didn't make it in time.
Calvin didn't make it. Yeah, once you don't show up by game time in our team, you know, that's it. You're cut from the squad.
Exactly.
So, it's, you know, look, you got to show up for practice. You got to show up for games. That's so anyway, we'll see Calvin a little bit. We're not that harsh, but for starters, anyway. Oh, Calvin,
There he is.
you horned in on the action there. I'm going to touch in after Josh music, but okay. All right. Welcome back, Calvin. All right. So for folks that are listening in on podcast, that was because one of our teammates didn't show up for game time. You might have guessed that, but you wouldn't have guessed it would be the dutiful Calvin Lee, though, right? I don't know. Reach your own judgments about that. So without further ado, the Signs of Life Squad welcome you to another day, the 100th day check-in here. We're going to do this a little later on. And first, we're going to start us off with Josh Jacob, our house worship band leader. Josh, what do you have for us, brother?
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, here we go. A song that I grew up with when I was a kid. It was influenced by this band, was Third Day. So I'm going to sing one of their songs. And here we go. I've heard all the stories. I've seen all the signs. Witnessed all the glories. Tasted all this fire. Nothing compares to the greatness of knowing you, Lord. Yeah, nothing compares to the greatness of knowing you, Lord. I see all the people wasting all their time, building up their riches, yeah, for a life that's fine. Nothing compares to the greatness of knowing you, Lord. Nothing compares to the greatness of knowing you, Lord. And I find myself just leaving for today, 'cause I don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. No matter if I rise or fall, I'll never be alone. Ooh. Oh, nothing compares to the greatness of knowing you, Lord. Yeah, nothing compares to the greatness of knowing you, Lord. Yeah, nothing compares to the greatness of knowing you, Lord. Oh, nothing compares to the greatness of knowing you, Lord.
Come
That's
on,
good.
Josh.
That's good, Josh.
Come on.
Josh.
Nothing compares.
Love that version.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate that. What are you feeling today on that one, Josh? When you were dialing that one up, what was coming to mind for you?
Well, just my dad used to always say, like, what does a profit a man to gain the whole world, lose his soul? He would always give me that verse, you know. I think now I'm sort of understanding it a little bit, you know, because I think one of the things that could happen is, like, when something like this happens, you're like, wow, I missed out on doing a bunch of stuff, you know, and I missed out on doing this and that. And then this kind of puts it in perspective that God has everything in his hands, you know, and that's the only thing you can kind of trust, you know. So at least that was my interpretation.
I think we should just end the show now. That kind of
I know.
sums it up, right?
What else we got? You know?
What else we got? Hard to follow that up, man. Thank you so much for that good word on the other side of the good song. I really appreciate that, friend. All right, we got a great show today with Dan from Nashville. We're looking forward to that, and he's bringing with us one of his wonderful musical guests, Mike Donehey. We're really grateful to have you, Mike, with us today. Looking forward to that. From now till then, we're going to have our regular celebration of light, life, faith, hope, love. The dialing in on Josh's point that God's got you guys. That's why we show up every day, to remind you that God's got you. He's going to bring you through this adversity time. We're praying for you. We love you. That's why we show up every day, just to remind you of that. Over to our friend Joel Searby in Gainesville, Florida. See if we're going to be okay with the technical difficulty.
I hope so. Hope you guys can hear me all right. And if not, we're going to make another change tomorrow. But welcome, everybody. And, you know, part of – are we okay?
We seem to be okay,
right.
I think.
We're okay. All right. All right. Well, welcome to the Daily Dose, everybody. You know, part of bringing light and life and hope, I think, also is being able to sit in and understand and be real about. Talking to mine last night who lost an aunt to COVID within the last few days. Her mother is positive, living in New York City. And so there's a real sense that we've got to wrestle with the tough stuff. And as we talk about grace and mercy and forgiveness and peace this week in the Daily Dose, I want to talk about something that kind of goes along with that, which is when we feel like we're falling away from God, or like maybe he never had us, or maybe we're not fully saved, or whatever theological language you want to use. I'm not going to go into how I may think about that or how you may think about that, but just simply to say there are times in life when we feel like we're falling. We're falling in a lot of different ways, and we may not feel secure. But I want to give you an encouragement taken from Eugene Peterson's book, A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. Peterson is an incredible just student of the Bible, and of course translated the Bible into the Message version and just passed within the last few years. But he talks about our Christian faith in this way. I want to just read a few quotes and we'll wrap it here. He says, the emphasis of Psalm 125 is not on the precariousness of the Christian life, but on its solidity. Living as a Christian is not walking a tightrope without a safety net high above a breathless crowd, many of whom would like nothing better than the morbid thrill of seeing you fall. I want to pause there before I finish the quote. How often do we feel like we're on that tightrope? And if you have a faith that feels like, hey, if I go this way or that way, I'm done. If I do something bad, then I'm out of God's favor. If I do something good, then I'm in God's favor. But Peterson says at the end of that passage, it's more like sitting secure in a fortress. I love that. God's love has got us. And then he closes this chapter on security. And this is the way I'm going to close your Daily Dose today, talking about how together we can remind each other that God's got us. So it's God that's got us, and it's us together that have each other, and we remind each other of his goodness. When mountain climbers are in dangerous terrain, on the face of a cliff or the slopes of a glacier, they rope themselves together. Sometimes one of them slips and falls, backslides, as it were. But not everyone falls at once. And so those who are still on their feet are able to keep the backslider from falling away completely. And of course, in any group of climbers, there's a veteran climber in the lead. Identified for us in the letter to the Hebrews as Jesus, who both began and finished this race we're in. Traveling in the way of faith and climbing the ascent to Christ may be difficult, but it's not worrisome. The weather may be adverse, but it's never fatal. We may slip and stumble and fall, but the rope will hold us. So take courage today. God's got you. God's got us together. Hold each other up. That's your daily dose for the day.
Living in a secure fortress, huh?
Mm-hmm. That's
How
good.
about
That's good.
I'm going to try to think about that one a little bit today. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to push it over to our friend, Jeff Bethke. How are you doing this morning, Jeff?
Good. Good morning, guys. Good afternoon, whatever time zone you're in, or good night. I don't know if you're in Europe or something like that watching. That's the fun part about the internet. Excited to give you guys something to chew on. I'm actually going to toss it back to you guys real quick for a question, a little trivia time again. You know, I like to bring studies, some research, some data. There's one that's been a study that's profoundly impacted our family over the last 2, 3, 4 years. And so with that, it will be probably a predominantly family tip for those out there, but I think anyone can learn from this one today. But I want to toss it back to you guys to guess. Now, what would you guys say is the number one predictor, and this is pretty extensive research that has studied this in multiple different spaces, the number one predictor in the West specifically of academic achievement and success for children? What would you guys say? Now, I'll give you a couple hints. It's not your IQ. It's not your wealth or your socioeconomic status, and it's not kind of your schooling. What else would you add in there? What would you guys say it is?
Parents putting down the smackdown. You will
That's
do
up
your
there.
work.
That's up there.
That's right.
That's up
That's
there.
right.
Whole families, like parents not
What'd you
getting
say?
divorced. I said like whole families, so like parents
That's
not
up
getting
there.
split
That's up there as well, but it's not the number one. So I'll
Some
just
sort of
what is it?
Grit quotient, some sort of,
Close.
All
So what
right.
it is, it's simpler than you think. And that's why I wanted to ask you guys, because I think it is a little bit mind-blowing. But the number one predictor across the board, multiple studies have seen it over and over again, is how many times the family eats dinner together in 1 week. Isn't that crazy? So every single week, if you even want to take a guess at the number two, it's more than 3 times. So if you as a family eat together with your kids more than 3 times per week at a table, at a meal, more than 3 times, and what is there, 20-something meals, optional if you do three every single day, you are in the upper echelon of probability of high achievement and success. Now, that's a fascinating correlation, right? Not IQ, not tutoring, not certain things with other predictors and wealth and socioeconomic status, but just how many times you sit relationally at a table. And I think this moment, this crisis moment, is that moment for us right now, is to reclaim the table. I think so many of us are slowing down and we are rediscovering going on walks, meeting our neighbors, but I think also rediscovering sitting at the table for a meal. It seems ordinary, but sometimes the most sacred and the most holy is the ordinary moment. I think another stat I'll throw out to you guys is 60 years ago, so that's not that long ago, the average meal time at dinner was 90 minutes. The average meal time now is 12, which that's average, which means a lot of people are probably shooting under that, 6, 7, 8 minutes. And with toddlers like we have, it's not easy and we totally understand. But one tip I would say is do everything possible. Not every single meal, you don't have to. Remember, again, just above 3, to make a few special sacred meals throughout the week where you lean in relationally, you put the phones away, they go in a cabinet, they go in a cupboard, you ask really good questions, and you just dive in. For us, we just try to have fun. And so we practice that. We're at the table. I'll get up. I'll literally, like our table, I want it to be the most fun the kids ever have. It's not formal. We don't do manners. We don't do any of that ridiculous stuff. Now, if we go out, sure. But at home, I'm standing on the table, I'm clapping, I'm singing, I'm, just doing dumb, fun stuff because I think that's what I want them to remember. So that's something to chew on for today, literally, is actually sit more at the table, enjoy those meals, and actually believe they're not just for fun and not just to bring you joy, but they actually can have a deeply transformative experience when you rhythmically sit at the table with the people you love. So that's something to chew on for today.
Man, I want to eat dinner at your house, Jeff.
You what?
That was the
I
same
want to
thing.
eat dinner at your house, man.
That's what I thought too, Calvin. Can you imagine how fun it would be to have Jeff with your dad?
It is fun. It is a fun. Well, I mean, I don't know because I'm not my own dad. You know what I mean? But we have fun. That's all I'll say. And we do. I think Alyssa has captured a few videos where I don't know if we'll ever share them on the internet, but we do have some fun.
Well, I don't think we could all be Jeff Bethke entertaining and performing crazily at a dinner table. We can't all be that.
Exactly. Just do you. Be the best you.
Be the best you. We could do some version of that. We could show up, be present, draw together the people in our lives that matter. And that is a great word, man. Thanks so much for sharing that, Jeff. And surprising. I mean, I didn't know you'd stumped this whole panel. Wow.
I know. I was expecting someone to get in the wheelhouse. You guys weren't, but there were some close answers that certainly are big variables. But the number one is just eating together.
The SmackDown one was really fun, though. I mean,
listen,
that one we know is subjectively true. That one's just true, right?
I feel like that was autobiographical.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a beneficiary of both, actually. The family eating together, and then like you will do your work. You'll do it. And I did it. So there you go.
That's awesome. All right, we're going to turn over to Calvin and wow. So that's happening. Our daily update on all the zany stuff that's happening in the Corona world. It's 100 days in since the first person tested positive in the U.S. It seems like it has been a lifetime. As we all know, 7+ weeks since most of the continental U.S. has been shut down. Someday this is going to end. We're going to look back on this, not necessarily fondly, but we'll look back on it somehow or other. But Calvin, in the meantime, Calvin's updating us with what's interesting that's happening out there.
Absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. As John said, today marks the 100 days, first 100 days since the first patient in the U.S. was tested positive for corona. Since then, we've had over 1 million confirmed infections in the country. And as John said, our way of life has transformed. So again, a few stories of how we've changed and where we're at today. So the very first one, JetBlue has become the first U.S. airline to require face masks during flight. So starting May 4th, all JetBlue passengers will be required to wear a face covering over their nose and mouth throughout all phases of the journey. So that includes check-in, boarding, while you're on the flight, and you're deplaning. I actually don't know. Bathroom. You may be able to sneak into the bathroom and take it off for a second, get a breather. But other than that, you got to keep it on. So all, as you can imagine, that also means that all crew members also have to wear face coverings as well while they're working. So Joanna Garrity, the JetBlue's president and chief operating officer, she said really well. She said, this is the new flying etiquette. This is the new normal. In our grocery stores, you probably noticed there is a lot less meat on the shelves. Well, in the face of the meat shortage, President Trump yesterday ordered processing plants to remain open despite safety concerns by citing his authority under the Defense Production Act. Despite President Trump's promises to shield meat companies from legal liability and safety guidelines that will be issued by White House officials, critics are saying that forced openings threaten the safety of workers who remain vulnerable to the disease. Now, according to USA Today, and as of Tuesday morning, more than 4,400 meatpacking workers have tested positive for the virus, and at least 18 have died from COVID-19. Workers have tested positive in at least 80 plants in 26 different states, and 153 of the nation's largest meatpacking plants. About 1/3 of those operate in a county with a high rate of COVID-19 infections. And lastly, in an effort to support all the high school and college seniors around the country who will miss out on graduation, Facebook, Instagram, and celebrities around the country are hosting #graduation2020 to celebrate the class of 2020 on May 15th at 2 p.m. In addition to a commencement address given by the one and only Oprah Winfrey, Aquafina, Jennifer Garner, Lil Nas X, Simone Biles, and others will be sharing a few words of wisdom. Miley Cyrus will also be doing a very special performance of her hit song, The Climb. Now, in addition, #graduation2020 will acknowledge high schools and colleges in the U.S. by name, including photos and videos of the class of 2020 and messages from deans, principals across the nation. So the phrase, there is a new normal, is real. And these stories give us a little bit of a glimpse of how expansive the impact of Corona has been on our lives. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to my sister, Marissa, to introduce our discussion question of the day.
Yeah, thank you, Calvin. Again, we're 100 days in, and there's a new normal. Corona's changed almost all of our plans and disrupted at least something for everyone. One of those core realities that I think all of us are really dealing with is this idea that if we thought we were in control of our lives before, it's become very, very clear that we are not in control anymore. And in an age where we're not clear on what, next month, next week, or even tomorrow holds, we're all having to slow down and sort of think about this sort of taking life one day at a time. In an article that I found today on CNN Health called Think Short Term to Cope with the Long Term, the author sort of talks about this process of living day by day, and I want to read it to you guys and see what you think. So he says, taking it day by day means reducing the degree of control we expect to be able to bring to bear on the uncertain future. It means recognizing that we have no serious capacity to exercise our will on a span of years and should not therefore disdain a chance to secure one or two minor wins in the hours ahead of us. We should, from a new perspective, count ourselves immensely grateful if by nightfall there have been no arguments, no seizures, if the rain has let off, and if we found one or two interesting pages to read. As life as a whole grows more complicated, we can remember to unclench and smile a little along the way, rather than jealously husbanding our reserves of joy for a finale somewhere in the nebulous, distant future. Given the scale of what we're up against, knowing that perfection may never occur and that far worse may be coming our way, we can stoop to accept with fresh gratitude a few of the minor gifts that are already within our grasp. So thinking about all that, chewing on that, my questions are, team, over the last 100 days, have your perspectives at all shifted from, the distant future into the now? If so, what's that process been like for you? And what are some things that might be helping you appreciate the kind of immediacy of the now? Where are you guys?
That's a good question.
That's fantastic. It's a great meeting, and I will jump in to say, we can leave us all up together there, Marina. Thank you. Is to say that, that is a readback, a straight up readback of the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. Mm-hmm. Taught us that 2,000 years ago. And what he means when he said that was, it's not just your food. That's great. I mean, food really matters. But it's whatever you need to get through the day that you're in, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that is what you're asking for. You can't ask for tomorrow's daily bread. You can ask for today's. And what that means, again, one other turn on what it means is that it's that, you're asking for the right amount of sleep, the right amount of patience, the fact you didn't actually, have a big riff with your brother or sister or mom or dad or your child or whatever, that you're patient and you lived, fairly with the people around you. Those are legitimately hard things a lot of times, right? None of that stuff's a given. And so this author is cleverly and eloquently reading back to us that reality, that it's always true. And now we just know it a whole lot more.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. I think I'm dealing with the tension of, I think it kind of did both for us in a cool way. I think it's making us deeply, deeply present to the particulars of the moment, thankful for every little thing. Everything kind of comes alive in a different way because things that, now that we don't have, we can't go out and do that were ordinary, we now want to do, right? And go out and be so like we're kind of makes us thankful for just what is the moment. But I also think it is also doing the opposite too, in a good way of, I think it's making people really look into the future and say, you have to be strategic about how you live your life for when things happen like this, that you're ready and prepared for. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think like, even I've been talking to a lot of my friends, and I feel like a lot of even some close friends are just kind of they got roasted during this moment just because there was no backup plan. There wasn't something there. There wasn't any, and I love the classic Jewish wisdom for finances, but I think it's kind of appropriate to have something like this all over. Is, they're the classic rabbinical, vision from thousands of years ago that still holds true today, that they've learned over patterns is basically, the rule of thirds, where it's like they put, a third of their finances in, some type of business is the rule. So that then in boom seasons, they get wealthy, right? You put a third of your money in, land or where you live. So in bust seasons, you have a place to live. And then you put a third of your land in liquid capital. So that then if a crisis happens, or if Holocaust happens or something like that, you have something to run and leave with. And so they're ready for three very particular situations, very strategically, that have actually profoundly impacted how they affect the world and science and Nobel Prizes and all that. So I think I'm like thinking about it in both actually, and a super long vision and a super short vision. I think this is kind of a magnifying both of them for me.
That's good. Pastor Joel.
Man, I've really been trying to live in each day and know that I've got today. That's all I've got for sure. And this has really forced me to rethink and ground in that. I think I've lived many parts of my life hoping for tomorrow and the next thing that's coming, and being excited about the next thing, and realizing that I've been missing some beautiful things that happened today. So it's really pushed me in that, and just to be present in the day, and of course be wise in our planning, as Jeff was pointing out, but also not spend so much of my day thinking about tomorrow that I missed today. That's been a big part of it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I won't piggyback on that, but definitely going to follow up on that. It's been really interesting. It's been great to hear about how a lot of artists who are releasing content now, it feels providential. It feels like, oh, wow, you're doing that for such a time as this. I mean, even, us, but like Stephanie Gretzinger, I don't know if you all out there know her, but again, fantastic worship leader. Originally out of Bethel. She has a new album, and this one song I just keep playing over and over and over again. And it, very few words, but it's just, Alleluia, Christ the Lord is with me. And, there's this in this time now, right? In the immediacy of now, right? You might not know what's coming, and you might not really be clear about like what just happened, but like, hallelujah, Christ the Lord is with me. I can hold on to that. That's something that can, I can walk with. And I think there's no shame, people, in the immediacy of the now. If you have to go moment by moment, reminding yourself of scripture that, at the very least, Christ the Lord is with you. Take heart. A lot of us are doing that at the same time.
You better pass along the link to that when we're done here.
I will.
I can't think of it already.
JK, I can't do everything. You know what I mean? But no, that's real. I'll pass it on because it's been a blessing.
She did share with the team first thing this morning a daily blessing, which she sent around by text. So yes, you can't do everything, but
no, but you'll love it. You'll love it. Yeah, Stephanie, thank you. If you're listening, Stephanie, whoo, thank you so much. But yeah, Calvin.
Man, I think something that has shifted over the past 100 days is probably, and we say this a lot on the show, right? But this idea of there's no them, there's only us. I don't know if that's ever been more real and hit home than right now. And something that we've talked a lot is that it was an issue before Corona, right? The division that people are feeling, the us and them dynamic, it's always been a problem, and it's been getting worse. But for some reason at this moment, it is very clear to a lot of people. So something I loved about this was actually the way we can start to dig into that is actually probably in the immediate, the day-to-day, right? How can you love someone who's different than you, someone that you may not understand? How can you listen and engage with someone who may not look like you, think like you, right? But nonetheless, in this moment, today, and Joel, I know you talk about this a lot, and I love it. But today, who can I love? Who can I close the gap with? And I think perhaps by doing that in the day-to-day, as we're continuing to press on this mission of there is no them, there's only us, I think it gives me hope that now we're still doing the work, even in the day-to-day, even though the distant future of this us seems pretty far off.
That's good. I'm going to break from tradition a little because JBJ, you seem like you are leaning in. You got something for us, JBJ?
That's just my posture. But
fair enough. Fair enough. You faked me out, JBJ. You faked me out.
He's literally just leaning in.
For me, it's been kind of like up and down, like a roller coaster, because like before we got into this, I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do? And then after this happened, and then y'all approached me, it's like, hey, you want to do music? It's like I had something to do, and I've been fortunate with that, but it's been up and down because like you're up and like, okay, God's in control, and you're like, man, how are we going to get through this? How are we going to get normal from this? And there's a tendency, it's human nature, just to look back and it's like, wow, I could have done a bunch of stuff, but I didn't. I missed out on a lot. And the discipline, I for me at least, is to be like, hey, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. This is just a storm. It'll pass. And even just not comparing yourself to other people. Like, I know a lot of artists are coming out with stuff, and for me, it's been hard to write, and so it's just a constant, trying to take one step at a time to do it, and just having a hopeful heart about it. Something good will come out of all this,
Amen. That's that day by day from an artist to other artists out there that I'm sure feeling the same way. That's good.
Good. Marissa, I had a conversation this morning. I took a walk with my best friend, which was great just to see him and be in proximity. And we were talking about this wrestle between like trying to help everybody out there, the problems, and just getting closer with the people that you're already close with. I think that's part of the day by day. I mean, if you trust God's got it, we can do both, but we also shouldn't just jump to like, leaving behind the people that are closest to us. And so what a gift this is to just reestablish day by day rhythms with family and friends that we're already in relationship with. And I think that's part of taking the day by day. It's like, yeah, I don't know what to do to save the world right now, but I know I've got my best friend I can take a walk with. I know I got my wife I can spend time with. I know I got my kids I can play with or dance on the table if you're Jeff Bethke. But just spend that time.
That's right.
Good.
Loving your neighbor is always and invariably, per all the stories from the New Testament, it's the person right next to you, right? I mean, it's not like, you do the best you can for everybody, but it's the person that God's put next to you is the one that you're called to do something about.
Yeah.
And these days, that's family or people that are living with you or teammates that you're on endless Zoom calls with or whatever it is. All right. Well, I know we could go on and on with any discussion topic that Marissa Prince brings up for us, but we're going to have to call it in with this one.
That's right.
I'm going to go audible on this, and we're going to go to the movie line of the day. Is that okay with you, Marissa?
Absolutely.
And do you want it, or do you want Jeff to have it?
Jeff, you got this today?
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. So Tom Hanks, Castaway, phenomenal choice. I won't even say much more about it because we can reflect on it after we hear it, but it's perfect fit for what we chatted about. So go ahead and roll it.
You gotta keep breathing. Because tomorrow the sun will rise. Who knows what the tide could bring?
So good. So good. Staying hopeful. Just keep breathing.
Keep breathing. Sun's coming up.
Sun's coming up tomorrow.
That's right. And the tide's going to bring something in. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
exactly.
good.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to bring it to Nashville. Dan, come on to the screen for us, please.
Hello.
Hello, Dan. Hello, Mike.
Mike, what's up?
It's good to be here. We're coming to you live from Nashville, where it's a little cloudy today. It's a little stormy, and that's all right. Some days just have to be that way, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I will say that.
Philosophical there.
Yeah, right. So today we've got a really great special guest, my good friend Mike Donehey. Mike is the lead singer and guitar player, writer for the band 10th Avenue North. He's also an author he's actually written a book, which we'll talk about a little bit because I'm a little jealous. I have not had the attention span to actually write a book, even though I've always kind of wanted to. So, I'll try to hold back my jealousy of that. Mike is just incredible. The first time I encountered Mike was on the radio, and I heard the song when 10th Avenue North was first coming on the scene. Was called By Your Side. And I remember amidst all the chaos that radio often has and just a lot of noise, I remember that song being kind of a moment where I just thought, oh, I'm hearing some actual music, some actual melody, and it felt a bit like an exhale amidst all the noise. And from that moment on, I thought, oh, I need to figure out who these guys are. Turns out they were label mates. We were on the same record label for a little while, and got to know Mike, got to see him play at various festivals with the band, and just was always struck by his passion, his ability to command an audience, and just really bring hope and just a great word to the stage whenever he was on there playing music. So, Mike, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
What an intro.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I think you overshot a little.
Well, I do my best. I don't think so. There's so much more to say. I first want to just ask, how are you doing? How's your family doing? We're, as artists, I know that some artists, they're finding this to be a good creative time. Other artists, not so much, just with all that's happening. How are you doing?
Yes, we were saying earlier, this is not the great equalizer. This is the great amplifier. Whatever's happening in your house, it's just more of that. Mm-hmm. And so people who are in solitude have more solitude. I have 4 pretty young kids, and let's say this is a time that for the rest of my life, I will appreciate my wife on another level than ever before. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Yes.
We, the first couple of weeks were really sad. Our band had sort of announced this farewell tour, sort of on accident, because a couple people in the band left kind of suddenly. Like, we're like, hey, guess what? I'm actually doing this now. So this is going to be my last tour. And I looked at my last remaining band member. I was like, are you out too? And he said, yeah, I think I don't want to do this anymore. And I went, oh, okay. So this is a farewell tour, not just the spring tour.
Yeah.
And so we kind of like rushed into that. We're still sort of like dealing with the emotion of that. And then, 8 shows in, we had flown out to Spokane. So we were at the furthest point, basically, in the continental U.S.
Right.
And then everything shut down. So, like, we lost all this money because we had all the production in the buses. And I got home, and I just kind of I actually spent 4 days in the yard just building onto our treehouse. Because I was like, I need to do something constructive with this sadness and isolate in like a healthy way from my kids. So they're kind of running around me, and I'm building this for them. And I sort of eased back in. And then like at the 2-week mark, I felt like I heard Jefferson talking about some rabbis. I was sitting Shiva, and I
that's right.
out of the mourning period, and I kind of eased in. I just said, I'm gonna go for a run in the morning, and I'm going to sit at the piano for 20 minutes. And if there's an idea, I'll just throw down the idea, and if there isn't, I won't write a song. And I kind of like gave myself a break, and wouldn't you know it, now like it's been 3 weeks of that, and I've written like 15 songs. So it's funny how I was like terrified that I won't be creative, and I actually expected less of myself, and it sort of opened up the freedom to create, if that makes any sense.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's great, Mike. And I feel
I didn't say they were any good. I just said that
we never know how good a song actually is when you write it. Like, it's just not something that the writer can actually inherently, we can't attach the value to what we write. So, that's just a reality.
You were letting yourself go to create or not. And if you created, then you're letting yourself go for it to be really lousy too, right?
The best way I've found to create is creating as a form of self-therapy or self-coping. And then it's like you benefit from it, whether it's great to anyone else or not. I've always sort of created.
And you're
That's
letting
really
yourself
true.
go creatively, and we're just all letting ourselves go. I know that's for me specifically with some food. You know what I mean? Quarantine food life has just been me letting
Has
myself
anyone
go.
seen the meme where it's like the cup of coffee's handing the baton off to the glass of wine? They're both
that feels real. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say that's true. Yeah. Well, I want to get to some music with you, Mike, because obviously we want to hear you play and sing. But I did want to just ask a quick question about the book, because you have this book, and I love the title of it. Just the turn of the phrase, finding God's life for your will. That versus where everybody always talks about finding God's will for your life. And I like the reversal on that. What was it like putting a book together, and are you excited that people are getting a chance to read it? And when did this come out? I have to confess, I just saw that you wrote a book, and I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And I got jealous, and I started throwing things, and I burned a few houses down, and I'm better now.
I had the privilege. I've always wanted to write a book. I was writing MySpace blogs before I was writing songs, so I've always loved writing. And I started to feel like I had a lot to say that I couldn't get into these 3-minute pop songs, And so I decided to write a rap album, right? Like a book is like a rap album. You get a lot more words to work with. And I felt this bubbling up, like I want to write a book. And I had no plan for like publishing. It was more just for, maybe the couple fans who, I basically had like 30 people who were stalking me on my Instagram who kept saying, you should write a book. I was like, fine, I'll write you 30 people a book. And the next step was, I don't have time to write a book. I have 4 young daughters. There's no time. And then the next day after I'd made this decision, like maybe I should write a book, I got on a plane and I flew from Nashville to Seattle. And for 4.5 hours, I stared at the seat in front of me and went, I don't have any time to write a book. Where is this time? And I felt pricked. And like I said, I decided, and this is how I work creatively, I was like, I'll just give myself this time. So for the next 1.5 years, every time I was on a plane, that was the only time I worked on the book. And all of a sudden, I had like 10 chapters written over 1.5 years. I took it real slow, and then I sent it. Long story short, a book agent, a buddy was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm working on a book. He's like, can I have it? And he sent it to a guy, and then he sent it to a guy, and then a book agent goes, hey, books from lead singers don't work, but I read it, and I actually think it's pretty good. I was like, oh, thanks for the high praise. And then anyway, it all kind of fell into place. I did have 69 of the 71 publishing houses they sent the first manuscript to flat out said no right away. So if you've ever gotten 69 no's in a row,
wow,
it's out now, and I'm
well, good. Well, congratulations on that. It is a huge accomplishment to write a book. Anybody who's been a part of that process knows that it's arduous, it's long, it's difficult. So congrats on that. Hey, would you be willing? I see you've got an instrument there. Would you be willing to perform with said instrument and play a song for us?
I would love. Would you guys like to hear new songs or old songs?
Oh, your choice.
I think one of each. Good. One of each.
Yeah,
right?
Okay,
yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do a new and an old, or an old and a new, whatever you feel.
I mean, just because you mentioned it, this just seems like the right song to do, right?
Oh,
classic.
This song, let's go by your side. Why are you striving these days? Why are you trying to earn grace? Why are you crying? Let me lift up your face. Just don't turn away. Why are you looking for love? Why are you still searching as if I'm not enough? So where will you go, child? Tell me, where will you run? Where you gonna run? 'Cause I'll be by your side wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, and please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you. So look at these hands at my side. They swallowed the grave on that night when I drank the world's sin, so I could carry you in and give you life. I wanna give you life, yeah. And I'll be by your side wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, so please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you. 'Cause I love you. I want you to know that I love you, and I'll never let you go, no. And I'll be by your side wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, so please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you here at my side, wherever you fall in the dead of night. Whenever you call, so please don't fight these hands that are holding you. My hands are holding you, yeah.
So good.
Classic.
That was the one.
Classic.
It's the exhale. It's great. It's fantastic. Yeah. I know, right? Yeah. There's a moment that when you're in music for as long as you have, Mike, and I've been in it, where it goes from I love your music to my mom really loves your music. And that's just it just happens. There's no way to stop it. Time just carries forward. And yeah. So my mom loves that song. Just so you know. Yeah. So you got the newest record came out, which is called No Shame, correct? Is that the latest from you guys? And I listened through the album and I found this great theme of it felt like there was a lot of conversation around what it means to truly be free, and the way that like a lot of the way like I kept taking it to where the institutional church has kind of sold us this certain kind of line of what a Christian life looks like, what following Jesus looks like, and in a way you resetting a tone and kind of going, but actually it's different, and sort of kind of pushing back on a lot of those things.
The dog grease, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you, am I accurate in that, or is that just my own sort of psychosis trying to make the record about me?
This is what happened. Jeff and I, who do a lot of the writing together, we both started going to counseling with our wives, like consistently for the first time. And I also got in a little emotion check-in group with a counselor and some friends. So I was with a group of guys doing emotional check-in. And I started reading this stuff by a guy named Chip Dodd called Voice of the Heart, which, to really dumb it down, it's basically like he teaches you that all your emotions, even the ones that people perceive as like bad emotions, start out as gifts. Every emotion is a gift. And it's a doorway telling you something about yourself. And when you identify what your emotions are, you can either make a choice toward health or a movement toward unhealth. So, for instance, I feel lonely. A lot of people in church would be embarrassed to ever say that, because we've been taught that's a bad emotion, because you're not believing the promises of God. That's why you feel lonely. And it's like, well, no, I feel lonely because I've been in quarantine in my house by myself for 6 weeks talking to my cat. I think I was made for community. So once you identify the loneliness, you're then able to ask for community. So that's the move toward health. The move toward unhealth is to keep isolating even further and never reach out because you're embarrassed. Because that's what happens when we don't identify our emotions. We not only still have that emotion, then we get a big dump of shame piled on top of it. Now it's like, oh, I'm such a dumb person for feeling so lonely. I should believe the promises of God. So that's why the record's called No Shame, is kind of this realizing, hey, like, you feeling things isn't wrong of you. What you choose to do with that feeling can be right or wrong. But like shame doesn't say I made wrong choices. Shame says I am wrong. Right.
Yeah.
And we kind of realize, like, we look back and I realize that shame is just a huge burden I carry for everyone I meet. It's like, if I could with my life, my art, anything, break off a little piece of the shame that you're unnecessarily carrying on your shoulders, then I feel like I've done my job here on the earth.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
That's good. So, would you like to play a song? You've done a bunch of writing, and I don't want to assume that you want to play one of the ones you've just been writing.
Heck yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, I'd love to hear what you got. That's new. Play whatever you.
This isn't copywritten, so whoever hears this, feel free to steal it.
All right.
That thing's stolen before, and I've stolen from before. All right. So here's a question, Dan.
Yeah.
Do you want like a Killers Americana kind of a song, or do you want like a unity hymn for the church?
Oh gosh.
That's tough.
Can I vote?
Yeah.
Yes. I wrote one with Matt Maher, the Killers Americana song I wrote with Matt Maher, and the Unity Prayer for the Church I wrote with my sister.
I want to go Killers Americana. Come on, bring us some Americana.
Okay.
Oh, great. That's a good choice. I mean, I love Matt Maher, but I think you.
The Americana song.
No, that's the one. Which is
that's the one with Matt Maher. Yeah.
You think you'd be the opposite?
It would be the opposite, but that's okay. Yeah.
All right. So I had this thought. How scary it is when the night comes as a kid. But when the night comes, that's when the stars come out. Mm-hmm. And the thing about stars is you don't see the stars by running inside. You have to stand in the darkness and keep staring up at the night sky. And the longer you look at the night sky, the more stars you see.
Whoa.
And so I started thinking about that, like, over my life. And so I brought that idea to Matt, and we had some fun with it. So tell me if this song's any good.
All right.
It's supposed to have piano and stuff, but we'll make do with what we got. Here's to summer, running through sprinklers, riding with sparklers in my hand. Rode my Huffy with Will and Nate Whitley. I couldn't ask for two better friends. Bag over my shoulder, be home for dinner. Looking for trouble again and again and again. Hear my mom calling in the distance. I feel the magic end. When the skies have lost their silver and the fields have spent their gold, and the sun, it will not linger to keep away the cold. But when the lights go down, that's when the stars come out. Ooh, ooh. That's when the stars come out. Ooh, ooh. Gotta get the words here. Here's to romance that starts in math class, passing notes here with boxes to choose. From that fast glance to a slow dance, trying hard just not to step on her shoes. Those first kisses, so electric. My heart was thunder, my head it was up in the clouds. When I was falling, she was thinking, what goes up comes down. Now the skies have lost their silver, and the fields have spent their gold, and the sun it will not linger to keep away the cold. But when the lights go down, that's when the stars come out. Ooh, ooh. That's when the stars come out. Ooh, ooh. Oh, looking back, I don't remember the pain between the photographs. Looking back, it could always look better, but I better look at what I already have. When the skies have lost their silver, and the fields have spent their gold, and the sun it will not linger to keep away the cold. But when the lights go down, that's when the stars come out. Ooh, ooh. That's when the stars come out. Ooh, ooh.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Love it.
That's good.
I love that vibe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the quarantine.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes. Man. Quarantine Chronicles right there.
That was actually my first song I've ever written over a Zoom call. That's the first time I've ever done that.
Nice.
That's awesome. So
Brilliant.
good.
It's really
Yeah.
good, Mike. Thanks. Hey, thanks so much for being on the show with us today too. This has been a real gift to hang out with you and have you just share a little bit about what's going on with your world. We do wish all you guys, I know the band is, as you guys figure out what life post 10th Avenue North looks like, we just thank you for the music you've made over the years and are just grateful for you and your voice in the world. So appreciate you being a part of this.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Big time.
All right. Back to you, John.
Hard to know what to say after all that. That Dark Night Star thing, that one's staying with me. So thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, squad. Everybody who's been on the show. Thank you for everyone who's listening out there, everyone who's on the pod. Great to be with you all. Remember, we're going to get through this. We've been through tough times before. We're going to get through this one too. God made you to transcend and redeem the adversity of this moment. And until tomorrow, we just say to y'all, we love you. God bless you, and keep fighting the good fight out there, folks. Until tomorrow, then. Bye now.